Welcome back to Primal Reset. We're joined today by Zeke Samples. He's the founder of Surreal Body Health and Nutrition. He's a best-selling author and an expert in sustainable weight loss. Also, a model. Guy looks phenomenal. He's got 20 years of experience and passion for holistic wellness, and he'll help you shed lots of weight that you don't want anymore. Zeke, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Tell me a little bit about your story and your background.
Thanks, Eliot, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I know you are doing some great things as well, and I'm happy to be a part of our podcast today and would love to share with the listeners anything I can. So a little bit about my background. I got started in health and wellness as a teenager. I actually wore a back brace for 2 years. I was diagnosed with scoliosis and kyphosis in my spine. It was a tough period of time for me because at the same time I was diagnosed with this, I was awarded a scholarship at a prestigious boarding school in Virginia. So I was living in a little town called Fort Mill, South Carolina. And this boarding school was pretty expensive, but you either went for scholastics or sports. And at the time, I couldn't compete in sports because I had to wear this back brace. And I also was able to attend this location. So it was just a really tough period in, a teenage life because you're spending a lot of time trying to develop yourself, much less, develop relationships in a new place. So I wore that brace for 2 years and just really self-taught myself nutrition and exercise through just reading magazines. I'm 45 now, so this was 1994. So, we didn't really have hardly anything. We didn't have cell phones like we do today, just basically barely had the internet. It was definitely a challenge and just the access of material you had as well. So a lot of it was magazines and just articles and things that you read. And through that, I was able to repair my spine enough to where on my last doctor's appointment, I didn't have to have the metal rods put in my back. I didn't have to have surgery, but it was 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears. So to me, it was, to a doctor, you're just a patient. So he's going to help you and then you're out of his office and the next patient walks in. But to me, it wasn't my finish line. So I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to stay busy. I've done all this. I've learned all this stuff. I just don't want to stop. I thought for a little bit and went back to the magazines. And I'm like, well, these guys that I look at in the magazines, they do this thing called bodybuilding. Let me see what this is like. Cause that's challenging your nutrition aspect. It's definitely challenging your mind, discipline, all these things that I had to do for that 2 to 3 year period, and reached out to the people that I read about in the magazines. And at the time it was 8-time Mr. Olympia Lee Haney. He was the best in the world. He was retired, but he was still out there. And a nutritionist named Chris Aceto, who was working with a guy who just turned pro named Jay Cutler. And anybody that knows the fitness industry right now knows at least of that name. So, I knew him back when he just won the nationals and he was in his early 20s. So it was, to line up with these people that were already helping these other people, it was just amazing. And I got to interact and meet these other people and also be taken under their wing. So it was something that was very humbling because I never had an attitude. Like when I walked into the industry, it wasn't because I'm, over there at the mirror taking the selfie like kids do today. It was because I had to. But through the discipline of it, I just wanted to see how far I could take it. And when Lee Haney took me under his wing and Chris Aceto took me under his wing, it just got me to another level and competed for just a little while, but went to the top really fast and turned it into a business. And I was helping others change their lives from about 18 years old.
That's, an incredible story. As you said, there's not a whole lot of people who are, proactive in that sort of way when they want to reach a goal and they're reaching out to people to actually achieve that goal. And it's unfortunate sometimes that it has to get so bad in order for everyone to kind of realize, hey, like maybe I should do something about this. And your story of what has happened to you, and you kind of took it in a positive way where you're here to help other people now prevent, scoliosis or injuries of any kind, or even nutritional wise as well, and trying to just keep them healthy. Tell me a little bit about that, what you do now to help people on their fitness journey.
Yeah. So what I do now is from not only a holistic approach, but a natural approach. Natural meaning there's no drugs, there's no stimulants. I have patients that I help that are 80 years old and they lose weight. Patients that I help that are 35 that lose weight. It's all about starting in the core of the body, which is basically cellular level detoxification. And I call it my 3P approach, which covers the physical, the physiological, and the psychological aspects of nutrition. There's no exercise really required in this either. So you're not out there, killing yourself in the gym. It's really focusing on things that raise your body's pH levels, pulling you out of an acidic environment into an alkaline environment, balancing your leptin hormone, which is our God-given fat-burning hormone that we all have in our body. But a lot of times the leptin hormone is suppressed with toxins that we have. Our bodies absorb about 150 pounds of toxins a year, whether it's breathing exhaust fumes as we take a walk down the park, or it's suntan lotion, or something that we eat. So those toxins encapsulate the fat cell, and that's really what I help educate people on, how to change their body.
That's great. The education portion is something that we're seeing more now, especially holistically and naturally. I would like to see more of it, and that's kind of why I decided to start this podcast and be that center of sharing that knowledge from industry professionals. When you talk about losing weight for your clients, and some of them they're kind of everywhere in the age range, some are 80 and some are in their younger years as well. What's the misconception of losing weight? Should everyone lose weight, or what weight are we losing?
So I'll answer that question by starting with the definition of the word metabolism. So metabolism simply means how well does your body burn fuel? So a lot of these toxic foods that we eat, they're like a wet log. You try to strike them as much as you want, but they just won't burn. A dry piece of wood and a wet piece of wood that are the same size, which one do you think will burn better? So cellular detox is really an exit strategy. What's going to attach to that toxin and then take it out of your body. Toxins are not selective. They permeate every cell. So why would you detox organs? You should detox the cellular levels of the body, because then when your body is inflamed, it pulls the fat out of the inflammation. So your body creates these storage lockers called adipose fat. And your body only knows how to survive. So when it's attacked with toxins, it knows it will die if they're in your bloodstream. So what does it do? It creates these storage lockers and then just keeps them in there. So at the end of the day, everybody, man, woman, young, old, you're either a fat burner or you're a sugar burner. And muscle burns as sugar, basically. So what happens is, if you're exercising every day, you're eating 500 calories, you're walking 3 miles a day, you're barely burning any weight at all, or you burn 10 pounds or you lose 10 pounds in 4 months, and you're like, this is tough, I'm not doing this anymore. You're dieting with willpower because you haven't addressed the center core. So what I saw as a global statement when I was, helping people in health and fitness as a personal trainer, I always saw that people's bodies weren't relinquishing fat because the body, number one, it stores it. It didn't want to dump the toxic waste back into the cells, but it's also because those people were not fat burners yet. They were not addressing their physiology.
Okay. All right. So kind of, and I'm trying to understand this for myself as well, because there's so many different people that are sharing information now, especially on social media, that definitely can be misinformation for most people. And like you said, the fat burners or the sugar burners, two entirely different people. And correct me if I'm wrong, entirely different set of diet for both of them as well.
Well, the proverbial word diet is kind of a misconception too. I mean, what my protocols have is a customized nutrition plan, but I have a small set of supplementation that is all natural, made of amino acids that backfill the body with nutrients that raise your pH level. They do the job to get your body ready to be able to burn the fat. So a lot of things that we read online, like this coffee diet plan thing, it combines increased black coffee consumption with a calorie restricted diet. But if you're not addressing the core physiology of the individual person, you're still just working on the outside. You're stapling the mouth shut, and then you're trying to energize it. So it's just going to teeter out for self-preservation. Same thing with these drugs like Ozempic or semaglutide. They communicate with the ghrelin in your stomach that sends a signal to the brain that you're not hungry. And if you look at some of the before and after pictures of the people that have taken these medications, they lose 67%, I think was the stat, that they lose that much in muscle percentage of the overall total weight that they lost. So they're not a fat burner either, because they're just addressing that finish line, but in a rapid way. They're not learning how to get there. They're not learning how to keep it sustainable.
I agree. You actually just stole the two questions I was going to ask you about the coffee diet and Ozempic. I think a lot of people, especially in the United States, are kind of more focused on the end result as opposed to the journey.
Exactly.
And I think to have that education of how did we really get there and what is it really doing. I mean, I didn't know that about Ozempic, kind of burning more of your muscle as opposed to your fat, even though it's the big title is lose weight, right? Not to mention the side effects that come along with it, with all the chemicals that are part of Ozempic, and even the coffee diet. Too much caffeine as well is something that we shouldn't be too worried about, but also not trying to overdo it in our bodies every single day. I mean, as a business owner and as someone who's kind of on the forefront of this with the new administration and the new wave, I guess, of preventative medicine and holistic and natural and organic and all these fancy words that we like to use. What's your approach as a business owner to attract these clients, to get people to want to be educated?
Well, it's certainly the results. So my website has before and after pictures on there, plenty of testimonials. I approach a webinar perspective a couple of times a week and invite people to the webinar. Anything I can do to help educate on the reasons why going to the core is what it's all about. And I like to help people. I just had a past client today text me about a pre-workout that she wants to take. And, immediately we think stimulants, right? But she's at the place where she could, take something that has beta alanine in it, that has a little bit of caffeine. She just wanted to get my take on it. And I'm like, Beth, there's 5,000 different supplements out there and they're all about the same. They might be a little bit different in ingredients, but at the end of the day, they're very similar. And I explained to her, when she sent me a couple of ones she was looking at, and I told her which ones were great, but then you can even dive deep into the ingredients that I say are not primary ingredients. Like, does it have sucralose? Does it have ecosulfame potassium, which are basically, falsified sugars that can domino effect in your body into making you actually store fat in high amounts because your body doesn't know how to digest them. They're man-made. So those things, even though we're not going to die from them per se, I mean, if you take them in high amounts and you've got 10 or 15 different supplements and it's coming at you from all angles, it just starts to compound in your body. It starts to all be stored. So I just pointed that out to her. And then she sent me another one that didn't have those falsified sugars, but it had creatine monohydrate in it. Well, monohydrate is a form that can cause water retention. So I know as a female, she doesn't want to retain water or really gain a lot of muscle size. So I pointed that out to her and she goes, man, there's just so many out there. It's so deceiving. And I was like, yeah, well, that's what you got me for. So it's a lot of information overload. I call it Dr. Google. But at the end of the day, I always tell people it isn't about getting someone to lose weight to be healthy. It's about getting someone healthy, and then they naturally start to lose the weight.
I agree with that. It's definitely, I've seen it on my own journey as well, venturing from the hockey world and being an athlete, being 227 pounds, to changing my diet. And I've had the luxury of being able to work with nutritionists and everything else as well in that aspect to kind of hit the cellular level of what am I doing wrong. There's definitely some guidance I could definitely use more, but I've definitely seen a decrease. I'm 200 pounds now at 6'3". Like, I'm still technically pushing on the BMI index, a bit of the overweight side, but I definitely feel better. I've had my own problems as well. So I agree with that for sure. There's so many things out there that we're not quite sure of. To have someone like yourself kind of point everyone in the right direction for their body is awesome.
Things are always changing too. I mean, don't get me wrong, and changing for the better in some ways. I got asked another question today from another client out in Oklahoma, and they said, what do you think about peptides? I've dabbled with them in the past, and his wife's a chiropractor. They're both on the program. They're about a month in, and he's like, she's getting asked about them all the time. Well, BPC 157 is great for injuries, but it's typically always been a shot. Well, if you don't like shots, you're not going to take it. And if your elbow's hurt, how are you going to stick yourself with a needle in your elbow? So there's just a lot of people out there that don't get a benefit from it because that just sounds like a lot. And then, on top of it sounding scary, so there has been a recent development where BPC 157 can be taken orally, and the ingredient that sustains it gives you 87% absorbability. And I met that chiropractor who owns that company and sells these himself down in Palm Beach, Florida. So there's just a lot of really cool stuff that's also evolving. So it opens up a whole new world to people that can now try these products and reap the benefits of them. And I've started taking his BPC 157 and I feel like a tank. So I know that the absorption rate is there. I'm a believer in that. And sometimes it's just about trying things out for yourself too and seeing if it works.
I agree. Everyone's body is different. So for something that might work for someone, it might not work the same for someone else. And for everyone listening out there, what is BPC 157?
So it is actually a compound. It's a big, long carbon molecule chain compound that works with the body's natural chemistry. So peptides in general are not steroids. They're made to chemically work with what we have in our body. Very similar to when you hear about hair growth procedures where they could take your blood, centrifuge it, and then use it again to help your own body repair its tissues. Similar kind of thing, but this is just from a chemical compound creation that your body recognizes as natural.
Okay. All right. I actually had a question about, because I've done this in the past as well. A big trend right now is intermittent fasting. Not waking up in the morning, having, I think it's a liter of water, the first thing you do when you wake up, and then you can introduce some caffeine and then, start to have your first meal by lunchtime-ish. What are your thoughts about that? Is that good for everyone? Tell me your thoughts.
Well, again, it's another non-sustainable approach. If, say, you did it right now, and then are you going to do it for the next 40 years of your life? So it's not teaching you anything. It's again, getting you to a result. That's getting you to that finish line. But then if you start to incorporate foods back in outside of that time window, I don't know what's going to happen to you, and neither do you. You'll have to just see, am I starting to gain weight back? Is it bad weight? Am I rebounding? So there could be, and then what if your goals change? What if you're starting to exercise in a different way or job change? Now that whole intermittent fasting lifestyle might not work for you because of other things that, is called life. So there's just a lot you have to navigate and work around on top of it being non-sustainable. Carnivore diet is very similar. Had one guy do a carnivore diet and has a hereditary trend in his family for gout. He started blowing up with gout from doing the carnivore diet. And then I've had other people that have done the carnivore diet, lost tons of weight and love it like crazy. But my question to them is, when you eat carbs for the next month and you incorporate those back in, let me know how you do. It's not a lifestyle that you can do for years and years and years. That's just my point. You're getting to an end result. You can get there, but then when you're done getting where you want to be, if you can't sustain it, come to me and I'll teach you how to sustain it.
All right. And actually, to that point, I know you mentioned earlier with having a client in Oklahoma. So I know you're located in Tampa, Florida. Actually, you're not far from me. Where can everyone find more information out about you? Are you nationally? Are you virtual? Do you do in person as well? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I have a couple of different opportunities. I have a blueprint plan that is the plan itself. Everything is included, the customized nutrition. You have access to coaching from me, but it's limited. And then you have the prestige offering, which is basically 7-day-a-week access to me. And then there's another offering where I can actually fly to you. We can go to the gym together. We can cook together. I can clean out your pantry. There's pretty much the immersion experience where we have a one-on-one. And a lot of my clients that I work with like that private opportunity because weight loss is not something that you really want to advertise. Even though it's a great before and after picture, a lot of people are actually private with it. A lot of my clients are female CEOs that own companies that are north of $1 million in gross rev. So they don't want everybody to know what they're doing. So I do this from a virtual stage, but I have the ability to be flexible with it. And everyone can find me on my webpage, which is my first and last name. So it's Zeke, and my last name Samples, Samples. So zekesamples.com. And from there, you can book a discovery call, which is 15 minutes. It allows us to me to learn a little bit more about you, hear your why. And then from that point, if we decide we're a good fit to work together, we can book another call where I dive into the 5 things I can teach you about sustainable weight loss and decide if that's a right fit for you, and then move forward from there.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to do that with you as well. If anyone wants to have Zeke in his house or in your house and clean out your pantry, he's definitely the guy to go to. And I'll have your links in the below caption as well. Other than that, I think that's it. I'd love to have you on the show again. I appreciate your time, Zeke, and we'll finish this off.
Yeah, this has been great. I appreciate it, Eliot. Thanks for the opportunity.